Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Thursday, the 29th of January. Lowering the bar. Kent publicans react to business rate reliefs for pubs across the county.
It's good that the government are listening. It's a little bit sad that they're not listening to the wider hospitality industry.
Emotionally horrendous. Queenborough mum speaks out about her autistic son who's been denied an assessment for special education.
We applied twice to KCC now for him to be assessed. They have refused both times.
And piecing it together for National Puzzle Day, we find out what games Kent likes to play.
Puzzles that also use different languages. I think that's very good for your brain, especially as you get older.
But first tonight, we have some breaking news for you. A murder investigation has been launched following the death of a man in Dover. A 25-year-old man was found with stab wounds in Rose Gardens in Eyethorne. He was treated by paramedics but was later confirmed deceased. Kristen Hawthorne joins me now with more details. Kristen, what can you tell us?
So police were called to reports of the assault at a home in Rose Gardens, Eyethorne, near Dover, just after 9 a.m. today. Their officers and emergency services attended to a 25-year-old man who was found with injuries consistent with stab wounds. The victim was treated by paramedics but was later confirmed deceased. A man in his 60s from Dover who was known to the victim was arrested at the scene in connection to the incident, but remains in custody now. A spokesperson for the force added that there will be an increased police presence in Eyethorne as officers conduct their inquiries. A cordon at Rose Gardens will also remain in place overnight. A murder investigation is now underway, with police appealing for witnesses to contact them. Residents with private CCTV and motorists with dash cams are also asked to check for relevant footage. Witnesses or those with footage can find the numbers and online forms on Kent Online if you have any of those.
I see. Thank you so much for your time, Kristen. Next, our top story tonight. The government has announced a loosening of business rates for pubs and music venues. This is set to come into play for Kent residents in April. Pubs in particular are set to face huge hikes in the rates as they will be revalued this financial year, with the Labour government reducing them by 15%. Now, this doesn't apply to all hospitality venues, and some opponents of the move are saying it could just end up being a sticking plaster. Well, Megan Shaw's been finding out down in Gravesend.
Pubs across the county are to be given government help to stay afloat, thanks to a new discount to their business rates bills effective from April. But local publicans aren't so sure this is the tonic they need.
Any help's a help. You can't get away from that. But any help that comes from somebody deciding what's going to help you rather than you telling them what's going to help you isn't that much of a help. So yeah, there are things like reducing alcohol tax, support with the business rates. Those kind of things do help. But the bigger picture is that the cost of everything has gone up so much that raising the business rates the way that the government has just had a huge impact. We've all been swallowing the cost of energy crisis bills, and that goes throughout the industry.
Now, the Compass Ale House in Gravesham specialises in microbrewery ales. Take this one here. This is the Bristol Brewery Milk Stout, and what sets this apart is that John focuses on the curation and the quality of ingredients. This, alongside other factors that are common in the pub industry, means that he operates on lower profit margins.
Many people say that pubs are very profitable. What is termed the gross profit, which is actually only what you make on top of the cost of buying in a product. That is not actually a huge amount of money, especially when you've got to pay, what is it now, £11 an hour to your staff, plus the overheads that every member of staff costs you, plus the rent potentially on the property, and keeping it repaired and up to date, and paying for your electric and paying for your gas. Those sort of things are what eats into your gross profit.
Business rates are a type of tax charged on all commercial properties, including shops and hospitality venues, and are revalued every 3 years. And pubs are expected to be on the sharp end of this April's re-evaluation, with the rate estimated to rise by 115% for the average watering hole. The recent announcement comes as a response to this, with pubs and music venues being eligible for a 15% relief and their rates frozen for the next 2 years. But the wider hospitality sector has been struggling for a while, yet this relief does not apply to restaurants or cafes or hotels, even though minimum wage increases, larger national insurance contributions and higher bills are all problems that affect them too.
It's a bit of a plaster over a wound. It's not looking at what caused that in the first place. So yeah, great. It's good that the government are listening. It's a little bit sad that they're not listening to the wider hospitality industry because we don't stand alone.
But for now, owners like John can only try to see the glass half full. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gravesend.
I'm now joined by Megan Shaw. So, Meg, we saw your report there and you mentioned it briefly. Talk us through the business rates. How has the budget changed them?
Of course, so business rates are essentially a tax on commercial properties in the UK. That's everything. That's from offices to shops to factories, and they're calculated based on each property's rateable value, and that's decided by a government body. That's called the VOA. And this value is based on a prediction of how much property could earn on the market. So importantly, for pubs, it's based on how much is predicted, how much they'll sell. That's drink, if that's food, rather than their actual figures. And these rateable values are revised every 3 years, and that's coming up in April, so they will be revised again. The VOA has released statistics that show that rateable values in England for pubs and pub restaurants had to go up by an average of 30%, and that's an average. And as we saw in the report, there are instances where it's been much higher. And the hospitality venues are feeling the pinch because during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a retail hospitality and leisure relief in place that reduced to 40% last tax year, and now it's been scrapped completely this coming tax year. So although we have that 15% relief, it's different. It's a lot more than that 40% relief we had last year.
I see. And now this is a national policy, but what have politicians here in Kent been making of this?
Absolutely. So the reaction has been largely quite positive. So the Liberal Democrats MP for Tunbridge Wells, Mike Martin, he welcomed the government's U-turn and himself contributed evidence to the government's business rates consultation last year. And we also heard from Lauren Edwards, that's the Labour MP for Rochester and Stroud, and her opinion.
I really welcome the fact that the government has listened to some of the concerns that I and other MPs have been raising with them around the impact on our local businesses and our local pubs. I am a bit disappointed that the government hasn't taken that further step and applied the full rate of relief that it had legislated for other hospitality businesses and those in the retail and leisure space. So before I became an MP, I was very focused on regeneration in my area. And, you know, I know that diversity on our high streets is really, really key. Having different types of establishments on a high street to give different, reasons for people to visit their high street is really, really important. So for me, although this is a really positive step in the right direction, there is more work to be done here.
Next, a mum from Queenborough says the fight to get support for her autistic son has been emotionally horrendous. Natalie Jacobs says Kent County Council has refused for a second time to assess her 4-year-old for an education, health and care plan, something she believes is essential for his future. The council say, however, that support can be provided in a mainstream setting, but his parents disagree. Kristen Hawthorne has the report.
4-year-old Ray has autism, and his family want him to have the special education they say he deserves. For this, an education, health and care plan is needed in almost all cases, something Kent County Council are refusing to assess him for.
So Ray is non-verbal, he can't communicate his needs, he can't answer yes or no, he can't tell me how he's feeling. Putting him in a mainstream setting, there's going to be no one there that can give him that specialist care. So he does need a specialist placement.
Since before his diagnosis at 3, his parents, Natalie and Mark, have been collecting reports from paediatricians, speech and language therapists and specialist teachers in preparation for an assessment, but KCC still refused to give him one. They first applied for an assessment in the summer, and KCC responded saying that Ray can access additional support in a mainstream school and should be given time to continue developing with strategies provided by education professionals, adding that parents or the school can request another assessment if concerns remain. They applied again in November but were denied for a second time.
I'd like to know why KCC have refused or twice, because it's clearly stated in every single report that he needs that. I have had to lodge an appeal. The appeal, I've had to state the law in the appeal to get them to listen, which I don't think anyone should have to do that. Because the threshold to actually be assessed for an EHCP is very low. It's crystal clear in the law that they have to assess. So why they've refused, I don't know.
So where does this leave Ray and his mum?
Even once they assess him, if KCC agree to assess him, the process of getting an EHCP is going to take months. So the chances are I won't get that in place in time for September, which will leave Ray without a school placement. If he doesn't go to school, then I don't know, someone's got to care for him, so I'd have to give up work. I'm just hopeful that we can get it in time, but it's not looking likely.
KCC have been approached for comment by Kent Online, but Natalie says that if the application gets refused for the third time, they will be taking the council to court. Kristen Hawthorne, KMTV.
Now it's time for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, we'll be talking all about water bill prices rising. This is despite a wave of major outages. So we're asking Kent, are these water bill hikes simply too hard to swallow? Now, from a commuter car park to a lifeline for families, we'll also be looking at Bluebell Hill, where new homeless accommodation looks to be built. All that and more after this short break. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, households across Kent are set to feel the pinch after the announcement of a water bill price hike. Those who use South East Water should expect to see a 7% increase in their bills from April. Meanwhile, Southern Water customers are set to face an 8% increase, the equivalent of around £55. This comes after the major water outages across Kent, with Tunbridge Wells bearing the brunt of the problems. Let's hear what Kent has made of the price rises.
Bills are never a good thing, and you know, you have to pay them. Of course you do. Or you go for service, you pay for the service, absolutely. However, what's happening is that people are affording less and less, and a lot of people are becoming destitute for so many reasons. Bills are one of them.
Not really good, obviously. It's bad.
I think it's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous, because we need water to live and people should be making profits from it. So I think it should all be nationalised.
Everything is growing. I mean, the inflation is for everything.
We need to cut a fine line between the people that's higher up in these organisations and stop middle management.
I think it's absolutely outrageous and brazen that companies would even say that they're going to put them up when all of this is happening.
We also spoke to Alex Green, the CEO of Royal Tunbridge Wells Together Business Improvement District, to learn more about the impact on local businesses.
Yeah, it's been devastating. So the first impact launched at the end of November, beginning of December, bank holiday, the Black Friday weekend, the time when the businesses should be making the most money possible, and suddenly they're not. They're either closed or they're suffering from massively reduced footfall. Lots of retailers are down 30 to 50% down turnover just because no one was coming into town. So it was really devastating to lose all that money at a key point in time, and really unfortunate that the level of support from South East Water was just so poor.
In a statement, the Customer Services Director at South East Water, Tanya Sefton, commented, "We know that any increase in costs can be difficult, especially right now, and we haven't taken the decision lightly. We are committed to delivering the infrastructure investment needed to improve our resilience as we face these challenges. We'll also be working really hard to bring down leakage. This is so we can have a more robust network and protect water supplies for the future." Well, I'm pleased to say I'm now joined by Murat Askin, the owner of TN1 Bar and Kitchen in Tunbridge Wells. Thank you for joining us, Murat. Firstly, tell us about the impact the water outages have had on your business.
We had a terrible time. It was one of our busiest time of the year. December, we had 5 days off from the business, which was terrible for our business. This is the time where we were planning to get most of our books right. And South East Waters, they couldn't supply their own job. And it seems like we are paying for their failure. Instead of they dropping the prices down, and they're trying to increase the prices, which is unacceptable. And we are only small companies, and we're trying to survive in this climate. And at the moment, the impact still carries on in Tunbridge Wells, and the footfall is really, really low, especially in the weekdays. Up to 50% low footfall in Tunbridge Wells in certain areas, especially on the touristic part of the Tunbridge Wells, like Pantals area, and we can see footfall up to 50% down. So we have two businesses in both ends of the town, and we can see the high impact on our business. And all we want is a help. It seems like I'm paying for their failure. I pay monthly around £800 to £1,000 for water bill. So 8% change on the water bill, it will affect me about between £60 to £80. So it's unacceptable.
I see, and we can see some pictures on the screen now of some residents going out and collecting that bottled water. Obviously, that is no longer the case. Tunbridge Wells does have its water back. But are you saying that because of what's happened, that's almost impacted the town's local economy in terms of people coming in, visiting the town? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly right. Because these news, obviously, it travels around. So a place like Tunbridge Wells, it's a lot of tourists from the local areas, and obviously these people think straight away there is no water, there's no business in Tunbridge Wells, why should we visit? And it impacts their travel to Tunbridge Wells, and it impacts our businesses. We haven't got any money yet from Southeast Waters. So far, they say they paid all the businesses, but I have no connection with them. Nobody call us. Nobody want to know. All they want to tell us their own stories, and their failure can't be my bills.
I see. They have told us, they say they're committed to delivering the infrastructure investment. Do you think that with this pay rise that you're providing, do you trust them to be able to improve their structure and their services?
I can only trust a business with their delivery in the past. So if I didn't deliver my business, I wouldn't expect any restaurant, any customers in my restaurant. So why do they think they're gonna deliver something that they failed with it? What's that? Is it my money that they're investing for their future failure as well? I don't think I'm trusting them. And I think most of the businessmen in Tunbridge Wells will be in the same line as me.
I see. Thank you so much for your time, Murat.
No problem. Thank you.
Next, plans for a dozen self-contained units for homeless people between Chatham and Maidstone have been approved. The £4 million project at a former commuter car park in Bluebell Hill will provide temporary accommodation for families who find themselves homeless. Tunbridge and Malling councillors unanimously approved the proposals as it's seen increasing demand with around 120 households at any one time needing accommodation. The homes will be designed and constructed by Z Pods Limited, with on-site assembly set to start in the summer with completion by spring 2027. Next, a school in Romney Marsh has opened its brand new 3G pitch for pupils and football fans. The all-weather artificial grass facility is now available at the Academy in New Romney, following a £1.1 million investment to boost grassroots sport in the area. After netting a £932,000 grant from the government's Football Foundation, alongside additional funding from the Premier League and the FA, work began on the site in July 2025. This week, the pitch was officially opened, with the New Romney Mayor, John Rivers, cutting the ribbon to mark the new arrival. And some animal news for you now. Keepers at Howlett's Wild Animal Park have announced the birth of a baby gorilla. The wildlife sanctuary near Canterbury has welcomed a western lowland gorilla at its site, who is now ready to meet the public. The baby is the 156th gorilla born at either Howlett's or its sister park, Port Lympne, something that's been described as a significant milestone for their conservation programme. The youngster, who hasn't yet been given a name, is the fourth child of parents Sankey and Jangu, who were also born at Howlett's in 1998 and 93. The announcement comes days after keepers revealed their silverback gorilla, Kalu, had died. Now for all the latest sports news from across the county. Kicking us off, Gillingham have added a new attacking threat to their front line. That is Northern Ireland and former Ross County striker Ronan Hale. It took a couple of attempts to get pen to paper, with the Gills having some of their earlier bids rejected, but he is now confirmed to have signed on for 2.5 years at Priestfield. He started training with the side today and will already know some of his new teammates, having played with Conor Masterson for Northern Ireland and Romeo Hutton and Josh Andrews from his time at Birmingham. He's from Belfast originally and played locally before a move to Birmingham and then to Ross County. Next, we'll be bringing you more news of Chatham's trophy hopes as the Isthmian Premier side host National League Southend in the FA Trophy 5th round. A win would mean they would make the quarter-finals, only a couple games from playing at Wembley, and it means they are welcoming one of the biggest clubs left in the competition to the Beauville Stadium. It's the furthest they've ever gone in the Vase, while the women's team are also breaking records in the FA Cup. Manager and chairman Kevin Hake said this Saturday marks another huge moment in what's already been a remarkable season. It shows just how far we've come and how ambitious we remain. Next, it was a debut goal for Herne Bay's new signing, John Caney-Bryan, in their 2-1 scrap against Mertham. Caney-Bryan struck in only his second appearance, his first appearance having a goal frustratingly ruled out for being offside. Hamilton Antonio added a second with a good finish before Mertham pulled one back with the last kick of the first half. Player-manager Liam Friend said, "I was really pleased. We've saved 2 of our better performances for Mertham. We were magnificent when we played them at home, but had a man sent off, and then the game changed." Now, Chatham Town women have kept their promotion hopes alive after firing 6 goals past the London Bees this weekend. The home win leaves Keith Bonus's side with more to do as they try to chase down the top 2 in the National League Division 1 South East. They have another big test this Sunday as they head back to Cambridge to replay the league game that was abandoned after injury to a home player in November. The Chats were 2-0 down when it was called off. Goal scorers against the Bees included Lottie Sharp, Kira Hines, Otisha Charles and Summer Whiffin, who scored her first senior goal for the club. Now, to a defeat for the 11, but a fun trip across the Channel for the hundreds of Sheppey United fans who went to see their side play the Jersey Bulls at the weekend. Close to 200 fans made the trip to watch the Ites play, and while it was a narrow 2-1 loss in front of more than 1,000 fans, many stayed the night on the island and made an evening of it. Vice Chairman Lee Allen said I think there was probably between 150 to 180 fans out there. For a club like Sheppey, that is quite a following, and it really brought back some memories from our run in the FA Cup. And in true Ites fashion, any fan who attended the match can get some money off their next drink at Holme Park. That's all the time we have for your sports news. Well, it is now time for a short break, but afterwards a 15% tax cut is on the way for Kent's pubs and clubs. But is it a genuine lifeline or just a sticking plaster for our locals? Feversham residents have also won a last-ditch legal battle to block 250 new homes, but at quite the cost. We'll have all that and more news after this short break. See you soon. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Thursday, the 29th of January. Lowering the bar. Kent publicans react to business rate reliefs for pubs across the county.
It's good that the government are listening. It's a little bit sad that they're not listening to the wider hospitality industry.
Emotionally horrendous. Queenborough mum speaks out about her autistic son who's been denied an assessment for special education.
We applied twice to KCC now for him to be assessed. They have refused both times.
And piecing it together for National Puzzle Day, we find out what games Kent likes to play.
Puzzles that also use different languages. I think that's very good for your brain, especially as you get older.
Now, back to our top story tonight. The government has announced a loosening of business rates for pubs and music venues, which is set to come into play for Kent residents in April. Pubs in particular are set to face huge hikes in the rates as they'll be revalued this financial year, with the Labour government reducing them by 15%. Now, these don't all apply to all hospitality venues, and some opponents of the move are saying it could just be a sticking plaster, as Megan Shaw has been finding out in Gravesend.
Pubs across the county are to be given government help to stay afloat, thanks to a new discount to their business rates bills effective from April. But local publicans aren't so sure this is the tonic they need.
Any help's a help. You can't get away from that. But any help that comes from somebody deciding what's going to help you rather than you telling them what's going to help you isn't that much of a help. So yeah, there are things like reducing alcohol tax, support with the business rates. Those kind of things do help. But the bigger picture is that the cost of everything has gone up so much that raising the business rates the way that the government has just had a huge impact. We've all been swallowing the cost of energy crisis bills, and that goes throughout the industry.
Now, the Compass Ale House in Gravesham specialises in microbrewery ales. Take this one here. This is the Bristol Brewery Milk Stout, and what sets this apart is that John focuses on curation and the quality of ingredients. This, alongside other factors that are common in the pub industry, means that he operates on lower profit margins.
Many people say that pubs are very profitable. What is termed the gross profit, which is actually only what you make on top of the cost of buying in a product. That is not actually a huge amount of money, especially when you've got to pay, what is it now, £11 an hour to your staff, plus the overheads that every member of staff costs you, plus the rent potentially on the property, and keeping it repaired and up to date, and paying for your electric and paying for your gas. Those sort of things are what eats into your gross profit.
Business rates are a type of tax charged on all commercial properties, including shops and hospitality venues, and are revalued every 3 years. And pubs are expected to be on the sharp end of this April's re-evaluation, with the rate estimated to rise by 115% for the average watering hole. The recent announcement comes as a response to this, with pubs and music venues being eligible for a 15% relief and their rates frozen for the next 2 years. But the wider hospitality sector has been struggling for a while, yet this relief does not apply to restaurants or cafes or hotels, even though minimum wage increases, larger national insurance contributions and higher bills are all problems that affect them too.
It's a bit of a plaster over a wound. It's not looking at what caused that in the first place. So yeah, great. It's good that the government are listening. It's a little bit sad that they're not listening to the wider hospitality industry because we don't stand alone.
But for now, owners like John can only try to see the glass half full. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Gravesend.
Next, residents fighting a 250-home estate will be given their day in court to challenge a council's decision to grant planning permission. The High Court has ruled that those opposed to the Ham Marshes development are allowed to hold a judicial review. They aim to raise £100,000 to fund the legal battle, as it's their final chance to block the project on farmland on the outskirts of Faversham, after already being rejected back in 2023. The judicial review will now be heard in due course, although if successful, it won't immediately reverse its approval. Now, 3 whale sculptures are part of a new installation suspended in the nave of Rochester Cathedral. Created by artist Tessa Campbell-Fraser, the life-size sperm whales are partly made from recycled ghost fishing nets which are abandoned, discarded or lost at sea and would otherwise continue to affect marine life. The semi-transparent artwork is a reminder that if we don't act on plastic pollution and rising sea temperatures, marine life will fade in the future. The whales exhibition will last from February 10th to March 7th, and there will also be other sea-themed events on for the family. Now, today is National Puzzle Day, a day to celebrate all things tricky and challenging. And if you're puzzled on why it deserves its own day, well, it actually comes from across the pond when Jodie Gill, a puzzle enthusiast, started giving away her own game for free. Before long, there were too many free puzzle requests, so decided to limit the giveaway to just one day a year, her birthday, January 29th today. So to celebrate, we headed to Rochester to find out just how enthusiastic Kent is about the day.
I'm not very good at number puzzles, and I can't even do simple jigsaw puzzles, but I do love word puzzles. I really love word searches, and I like playing Boggle, which is a word game.
We do like tricky ones, like escape room ones, where me and my partner, where you make the puzzle, but you think you've got all the edges out, but you haven't edges go in the middle, and then after you think you finished the puzzle as well, they've got another envelope, it's got like an extra 100 pieces, you've got to move the puzzle around and fit them in.
I really like it. I'm kind of I'm not very good at maths, but numbers are very much in my head a lot.
I quite like puzzles that also use different languages. I think that's very good for your brain, especially as you get older.
The more you go out of the comfort zone, the more your brain will be, I mean, it's just a muscle after all. So you exercise that muscle just like you would any other muscle.
It's just to open yourself up to it, yeah. Just try something new. 'Cause to be fair, I never used to think I liked puzzles until I met my partner and started doing them together. And to be fair, no, I love it. I love a little date night indoors.
Well, I'm pleased to say that I'm now joined by Glenn White, who runs the Mug and Meeple in Gravesend. They're a board game and trading card store. Thank you so much for joining us, Glenn. First of all, for anyone who doesn't know, what is National Puzzle Day, and is it celebrated here in the UK, or is it more of an American thing?
I think probably it's more of an American thing, but you know, any excuse to play puzzles, any excuse to play games is good in my book.
Absolutely, and that sort of links into my next question. Can you tell us a bit about the health benefits of puzzles? Sometimes if I feel I've been looking at my phone too long, I might do a word puzzle or maybe a jigsaw or something. So how do they actually work to sort of stimulate the brain? Can you tell us a bit about this?
So yeah, basically, if you think about, I don't think anyone questions that doing some sport or doing some physical activity is really, really good for you, good for your health. But no one really thinks about the mental benefits of actually playing games and playing and doing puzzles. Like stretching your brain occasionally and getting it to think and think critically is really important to sort of stimulating those neurons and getting things firing. It's really, really important to exercise your whole body, not just your muscles.
I see. We've got some images now of a few games, some jigsaws. What do you think makes for a great puzzle? I suppose it's a tough question. There's all sorts of kinds, but what do you think has to be a kind of necessity for a puzzle?
I think, to be honest with you, it depends on who's doing it. Like some people really, really enjoy number puzzles, but numbers are not for everybody. Some people love word puzzles. Some people with a bit more spatial awareness, like jigsaws. Honestly, whatever stretches your brain is a good puzzle.
Absolutely. And when you have someone coming into the Mug and Meeple, how do you sort of find out what kind of puzzle might suit them? If they come in, they say, well, I have no idea what I want to play. What sort of questions do you ask them to try and figure it out?
Honestly, we just ask them like what they've enjoyed in the past, what books they'd like to read, you know, just get into who they are as a person. Usually it sort of sparks something within us, games that we've seen played, you know. So if people like maybe a little bit of gambling, maybe they play some cards, we would recommend something like Camel Up. If they like their own puzzles, then we can recommend something like Tsuro or Dobble or something like that. You know, it really does depend on the sorts of things they enjoy in other areas of life, and then we'll just point them in the right direction.
I see. And I'm also quite curious about digital puzzles. So your Wordle, your New York Times, there's a few different ones to choose from. They gained sort of quite a bit of popularity, especially during the pandemic. Do you think that it's kind of a renaissance for the puzzle genre in a way?
I think that phone apps have brought that kind of puzzling back into the fore because they're so accessible, and also they're kind of acceptable. You know, sometimes if someone says to you, "Oh, I really like doing jigsaws," people can kind of look at them a little bit funny and go, "Really, jigsaws?" But actually, jigsaws became very popular during COVID. But playing an app on your phone, everyone just accepts that as normal. In fact, digital gaming has made gaming in the wider sense way, way more acceptable than it used to be. It used to be that people would break out, Monopoly at Christmas or Cluedo or whatever. But these days, people recognise that maybe those games have had their day, and actually there are much better games that you can play, and puzzles too.
And do you think that kind of move to some digital puzzles has changed the way we interact with board games, or the way that board games are being made, maybe with less of an emphasis on kind of the socialisation aspect of it and more on the focus of that solo play, almost like solitaire versus playing a card game like Cheat?
I don't know about solitaire. I don't think I would suggest that board games and things like that have gone in that direction. The whole point of playing a board game is to socialise. There's, you can do sort of jigsaws by yourself, but really, if you're playing a board game, it's to do it with other people. One thing that it has, or one modern idea, is a collaborative board game. There are many board games that you can play with other people as part of a group, but you don't play competitively. A lot of people really enjoy those.
I see. Well, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Glenn.
No problem.
Like I say, that is all the time we have for now, but it's another break, a few minutes, and we'll be back with all the latest news from across the county. See you in just a few minutes. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one about people trying veganism for January, called Veganuary. Aside from some poor weather, January brings plenty of New Year's resolutions, whether it's quitting smoking, picking up some weight or even reducing your screen time. But here in Kent and across the country are people taking on a new challenge for this month. Veganuary is where you become vegan for the full month of January. You're not allowed to eat any meat or meat products for the whole month. But in Kent, are there enough places for vegan people to actually eat? The Quills restaurant in Rochester started adding meat product-free options to their menus around 2020.
To be fair, some people ask, basically demand. So people was coming and asking, do you do something vegan? And I was saying, okay, we can make you vegan if you take this off from the dish. But the people was asking more and more. So we said, you know what, we're going to put that in a menu which comes vegan, and then we labeled as a vegan, so it would be just easier for us and for the chef and for a customer, and then whoever wants vegan, they know where to go.
Now, I love meat as much as the next person. I don't think I'd be able to go vegan for a full month. But restaurants are making it a little bit easier. They've started adding more vegan-friendly meals to their menu, and I'm not just talking about salads like the one I have here, burgers, full breakfasts even. But going into a restaurant and ordering something vegan-friendly is wholly different from being one. You need special kinds of milk, special kinds of cream, special kinds of butter. Even some Prosecco's aren't vegan-friendly. This one is, but not all of them are. So how easy is it to actually commit to not eating meat or meat-based products for a whole month or longer?
I would say that actually it's probably one of the more challenging diets, really, to make sure that you're getting all of the nutrition, the vitamins and minerals that you need to get to be as healthy as you can possibly be. So it's definitely possible. In terms of like a quick sort of fad way of eating, it wouldn't necessarily be my first choice, and I would always recommend that there is research and planning and forethought gone into it beforehand. And if it's done in that way, then absolutely you can get everything you need from a vegan diet. It just requires some planning.
6.3% of UK adults are planning to follow a vegan diet in 2026. That's about 3.6 million people. According to some new data, just less than half are already vegan by the new year, while 3.2% weren't, but have decided to make the transition. At the end of the day, while restaurants and shops are becoming more accommodating, it's up to us to see, can we stick with Veganuary as well as we stick with our other New Year's resolutions? Finn McDermott for KMTV in Rochester. After Kent Tonight, we'll have another new episode of Kent Film Club. So to join me is Chris Deasy, telling us all the latest film news, as well as bringing it back to puzzles. We'll be talking about board game films. But before all of that, Chris, we're going to be talking about the Oscars. So Sinners has a record for the highest number of Oscar nominations ever, with 16 different categories. So did you see Sinners? I'm expecting the answer to be yes. And what were your opinions?
I did. Now, this did phenomenally well. It came out earlier in the year, around May. And it's a bit, if anyone has seen From Dusk Till Dawn, which I love, the Tarantino film from the 90s, because I'm always giving away the plot. So if you haven't seen it already, you'll know exactly what might be coming. However, this is a hybrid film. It turns from one genre into another. And it did so well. And also for a film to come out that early in the year, and to be standing tall with all those films that are released around Christmas time, which is when most of the Oscar-nominated films reach the cinemas, and of course it left fresh in our memory, then it's done phenomenally well. But 16, that's even more than Titanic, that's more than Ben-Hur, that's more than The Colour Purple.
I see. And is this normal for a film to win this many Oscar noms, or is this sort of like so far ahead in the race that it's not even worth, blowing the starting pistol?
Well, in the BAFTAs and also in the Golden Globes, it was one battle after another that was getting the highest number of nominations. One battle is just behind, I think it's on about 13.
All right.
So one battle after another may well be the favourite to win. Paul Thomas Anderson has never won an Oscar. He did films like Magnolia and Boogie Nights and Phantom Thread. So he's been around a while and his films are always very edgy. So I would put my money on him. But Chloe Zhao, who won for Nomadland, is also up for Hamnet. So there could be quite a few dark horses in the race of you never quite know where it might go on the night.
Absolutely. And have you had any particular favourites that have maybe been a little bit snubbed this year? You think they deserved a shout?
Well, I did like Song Sung Blue, the Neil Diamond film, and it has got a nomination, as it has in the BAFTAs, for Kate Hudson in the Best Actress category. I don't think it's going to win, realistically. But this is a year where films, like One Battle After Another, that just feel as though they are, in some ways, a little more edgy, perhaps veering into very black comedy territory, with a good social critique. You know, films that are set 20, 30, 40 years ago, but seem to be a commentary on what's happening politically today. So I think that's why, as with the film with a very strong Russian background last year, which won Best Picture, and lots of others as well, I think that it's quite possible those films which say something about where we are politically today hit the zeitgeist and will therefore do well.
I see. I've never personally watched the actual Oscars ceremony. I believe this one's in March.
It will be middle of March.
Middle of March. So you've got any tips for watching the Oscars? I can't say I've ever watched it. So any sort of bits to watch out for? Any special moments?
I always loved when Billy Crystal was the host, because he would do literal song and dance routines, and he'd point at the different candidates who were up, the different nominees, and kind of rib them in a very gentle way. And he would do that often then by singing a song, by changing the words sometimes. So you'd have a song about like Sixth Sense. It would be people, I can see dead people, that kind of thing. So it was just sort of inserting words that just match the stars in the room and the films that are being nominated. And that really made it feel alive. You know, it was never a boring ceremony. He was one of the best masters of ceremonies that the Academy has ever had.
Amazing. We're going to move on now to National Puzzle Day, as we were talking about earlier in the show. So we've got a still here from a board game themed film. Could you guess what it is?
This is Clue.
It is Clue. So have you played the game? Have you seen the film?
No, I know the film now. When it came out in New York in 1985, in different cinemas, there were 3 different endings.
I've heard about this, yes.
Now, of course, these days, you can just have the 3 different endings on a DVD disc. And of course, you simply say, which ending shall I pick? But in those days, in a very analog world in the mid-1980s, you'd have to go to different cinemas on different nights, but you'd never know which one was showing which version. So this is a very clever film. I saw it at the Prince Charles in London about a year ago, and thankfully they did show all 3 versions, all 3 endings.
I see, yes, because I actually watched this one on streaming services, and the film sort of ended. I went, oh, that was good. And then there was another bit. I was like, what do you mean ending 2? And it was a bit like, oh, all right.
So which one do you prefer? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look at our next film, see if you can guess this one. Oh, well, it's a bit of a giveaway.
Well, there are multiple versions of this.
True. There was, of course, the reboot.
The one when the cartoons, if you like, come into the real world, and then the other when they go into the digital virtual world.
Yes, absolutely.
I love this, all versions. But there's a real story underneath it, and it's about trauma and nostalgia, and the idea that it's a metaphor for life, isn't it? You have to finish the game that you've started, even if it takes 20 years, as it does with Robin Williams' character in the 1995 original.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at our next film, if we can. Do you know this film? Now, not exactly a board game, but sort of there.
Oh, I do know, with the munchkin thing that eats. Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, yeah.
Pac-Man, yes.
Pac-Man is in the film, but this is Pixels, the Adam Sandler film. Okay. Well, yeah, it's Pixels. So it's based on arcade games. This was about, I think Adam Sandler plays a sort of disgraced former arcade champion, and then aliens come that take the form of arcade games like Pac-Man, Galaga, Centipede, that sort of thing. Have you ever seen it?
I haven't. Sadly, I don't think it was up for 16 Oscars that year.
No, I don't think so. This is one of my personal favourites. I want to take a moment, actually. I'm going to sort of throw... I haven't prepared for this very much. I'm going to throw a board game at you, and I want you to tell me what's the plot. Okay? Snakes and Ladders. What do you think the plot is?
Oh, that's great, because it means that sometimes just when you think that you're going up and up and up, you plummet and you have to rise again. There's a good
redemption story. I love that. Okay. This is testing my knowledge of board games. What's Monopoly?
Oh, well, Monopoly is a great capitalist venture. It's like seize what you can, but you could lose everything.
Wolf of Wall Street.
It's the Wolf of Wall Street. It's the biggest gamble that there could be.
Okay. Go Fish?
Good question. Do I know Go Fish?
Go Fish is a card game. Maybe I've gone too niche there. Go Fish. You don't know Go Fish? No? Okay.
No, I didn't know that one.
Okay, well, I suppose maybe a fishing movie. I don't know.
But I do, and there's actually there's a Joe Pesci film, I think, with the same title.
Oh, really?
But there are a few. There's a film around Scrabble. It's got Bill Nye, Somewhere,
really?
Always Never. It's about a man who can't connect with his son except through Scrabble. So in other words, they're a very intelligent family, and he goes missing, and they use Scrabble as a means of connecting and being brought back into the fold, like the prodigal son. And there's also a film with Kelly MacDonald, who was in Trainspotting, and it's actually called Puzzle. And it's about a mother, and she's always like a bit bored with her life, and her family are sort of it's a bit like Shirley Valentine, I suppose. And she gets caught up in a world of puzzles, literally goes to conventions, and her family at first say, come on, mum, you should be cooking the dinner. And they suddenly realise that this means everything, and they change their life around her.
Wow. So there are there's more board game films than I realised. I'll have to watch it. Really, about Scrabble. That's quite, I wouldn't have expected it. Scrabble film.
Who would have thought that a film about words in that sense actually becomes a visual and dramatic entity?
Amazing. Well, like I say, we've got a brand new episode of Kent Film Club coming up. Tell us who's on the show, what can we expect, what kind of films are we talking about?
Okay, we've got Lou Fowkes, who's a jazz singer, radio presenter, and she's got classic films. There's a few Spielberg in there. In fact, maybe 2 or even 3 Spielberg-related films. And there's also Gone with the Wind. We've got all the classics in there, including one film that I've already mentioned, that was nominated for loads of Oscars in the mid-'80s and didn't win a single one, directed by Spielberg.
Right, well, our audience will have to watch to find out, I suppose, to figure out which one that is. So, looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Chris, for rolling with the punches on that one. All right, well, thank you so much.